What's up, flooring family? Welcome to the huddle. We're here every Tuesday at 3 o'clock to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. We go over a multitude of things. Last week we had the ladies from Wi-Fi. Was that last week? Yes, I believe so. And that was an enjoyable conversation. This week, we're going to be talking about hiring subs and those subs having subs instead of employees on their crew. So this is a very in-depth conversation. It's something that I believe most people in our industry would agree there's a lot of risks. So we're going to kind of go over some of those, maybe get some questions from the audience on some problems that maybe they have experienced. Sorry, I need to introduce, I'm Paul Stewart, and with me as always is Jose, who is in an airport somewhere, and Daniel at the home office up in Michigan, Grand Rapids at PF Flooring. So I believe Jose is headed to another training / event. Where's that at, Jose?
It's in Georgia. I don't know exactly what town yet.
It's at one of the Mapei adhesive facility, I believe.
There you go. That's where it's at.
Well, awesome. Well, good job, sir.
I'm just plugging in here, guys, so bear with me. I'm sorry about that. Kind of a tight schedule here.
You're welcome.
So, welcome. All right, well, we're going to get right into it here. If I could get a show of hands, I would, but if you're in flooring and you own a flooring company, a full service that provides materials and labor for commercial flooring projects, even residential for that matter, and you hire subcontractors to do your installation or some portion of that installation, one of the things that I know many people struggle with, I know the industry itself struggles with, is those subs that you hiring other subs that work underneath them. And you can kind of think of it kind of like a labor broker almost. The good ones that really do it right, make sure that their subs have insurance and everything. They run it correctly. They do training. They provide more than just here's a job. But and full disclosure, my grandson is here with us today, not feeling well. So if you hear a little voice in the background, that's him. And you may even see him running around behind me every now and again, because 3-year-olds are impossible to tie down.
They do what they want.
And it's illegal.
They do what they want. Yes, correct. and if you guys, if it gets I'm going to keep muting myself here, but if it gets too loud when I'm on, just go ahead and mute me. If it gets too loud, just let me know. I won't take any offense from you guys.
Awesome. Okay, so Jose, well, let's go with you, Daniel, since you're in a quiet place. You guys hire subs, right?
We do.
And have you experienced this where those subs have guys that work for them that are on a 1099 and not a W-2?
Yeah, all the time. I think that happens more often than not, to be honest with you. And that's and we're also, we've been guilty of that in the past too. The one thing that we did though was the research and knowing that, okay, the federal government puts out a form and says, here's a checklist. If they meet any of these things, they're an employee. And it's like, boom.
They met everything. It didn't matter.
Right. So you gotta, that's where a lot of the thing where we say, we've been doing this for 20 years. It's the same way that they pay the guys that work with them. I've been paying them this way for 20 years. I've never been busted, so it must be the right way. But they don't really realize that all it takes is that one time, and then they can pretty much take your entire bank account, you know, based on how much you paid out and stuff. Because it's not only do you have to pay penalties and all that, you actually have to pay the guys what they're owed. And one of the biggest things I think when we were looking at it was the overtime thing. It's like when you're paid on a 1099, no one's keeping track of overtime.
Yeah,
That is,
there's a lot of risks, which, and I want to be clear, if you're doing it right, and what I would say is right, is that you are a sub and you're subbing to another sub. For whatever reason, you have that business relationship not being a employment relationship,
Right.
but a
When they're
contract
actually their own
relationship.
entity. Because we've also worked with people like that too, where it's just two guys and they partner up to get things done, but they also do their own separate thing.
Yeah.
It's not like the only way we're gonna end up working is if we work together. It's I have my thing, you have your thing, I get my jobs, you get your jobs, and then they partner up on those to be able to help each other out.
Yeah.
So that dynamic also works too. So yeah, it's
As long as everybody in, as far as doing it right, what I'm saying is that everybody in the equation has the proper liability insurance and or workman's comp, depending on where you live. In Kansas, you're able to exclude yourself from workman's comp if you are an owner. And that's a lot of times, I think, why these things happen. Hey, will you mute, Jose? Thanks, sir. And that's why that dynamic happens. But as long as everybody is in the equation, has the proper liability insurance and the proper work comp, then, or the waiver for the work comp. In Kansas, you can sign a waiver as a 1099 as the
through the
owner of
state,
your
right?
company. Yep.
Yeah, you can do
Yep.
that in Michigan as well. And that's what your brother Danny Sherman says. He says workers comp can bite you.
Yes. Yeah, and their job is to try, when we get work comp audited, their job is to try to find extra money. That's what those auditors do. They go in to try to find the holes in your systems so that they can charge for that. They realize that that person is not paying work comp, they're losing out on money. And so if they can get the company all the way up to the flooring company to cover, then they will. So make sure you have good policies in place. One thing that I would suggest for any flooring company is to have a master subcontract agreement with your subs, and that then governs all work orders that you may award to that subcontractor. And
Right.
in that master,
remember, we got to start calling them trade partners.
Trade partners. So in there, you are addressing items like pay, that they realize, that they pay their subs, that it's required, and that they're held liable if the sub's not paid. We'll get into some stories here of some catastrophes that I have experienced in my own business. And then also make sure that your sub is like, that there's some level of training and making sure that they're capable of doing the job. That we push training here because the freaking technology changes so often, and the way that you apply different products to different substrates change so often that you have to be aware of the new trends and things. So that's why we're always, promoting and preaching to be part of the industry and to be plugged in. But that being said, I know that at one point in our career, we did not, or in our business, we did not address these items. And we had a project where a sub got paid, and they hired somebody locally. It was an out-of-town project, and they hired someone locally to help them with that project and did not pay them. That crew then calls us. Actually, that crew then called the GC and said they weren't paid, which looks terrible for us. And then that GC calls us and says, you have labor on your project that is saying they're not paid. You need to get a hold of this guy and get this situation rectified immediately. Now, they don't care who owes who. They just want that problem done and gone. So we ended up just paying that local sub and making sure they were whole. And then went back to our sub and eventually recovered that money from them. But you're going to be out double the money a lot of times if that happens. So make sure that your subs, if they have other subs working for them, that they are responsible and that they have that attitude of taking care of their guys, taking care of their subs, of their trade partners. If you're going to take care of your trade partner, make sure they're doing the same thing.
So is there something that anyone can have in place for the future for that? Because I know that that's going to be a scenario that we're never going to be able to stop it. And is there any literature, anything, any contracts that are currently out there that give a great template of that type of partnership?
Well, having a good master subcontract agreement with your trade partner is important, that addresses these items. You're right. In fact, what I have written down here is, that being said, is there any way to prevent this dynamic? And I would say no. I mean, just it's kind of a rhetorical question. But the fact is we can't prevent it from happening. How do you tell a company they can't hire another company to do the work? You can't do that.
Right. And there's some of the GCs that the contracts come through and they want you to list any, trade partners that you're using. And there's also one underneath them that they want to know if they're going to use any trade partners. So that way they're keeping track of everything, because that's where, like, a lot of the guys that are kind of new to it, they don't really look at like the lien waivers and stuff, right? Because it's always they're going through a company, don't really need to provide anything, because what we're going to be doing all the paperwork and doing all the lien waivers and stuff. But it's to the point where they're wanting to see everything down to the trade partners and stuff like that. So, and then once they I sent over some stuff and it's like, I need this lien waiver. They're like, what is this? And it's like this is going to be pretty standard across the board now. I think it's,
yeah, I mean, the GCs have experienced the same thing I just said, was they've experienced subs saying they weren't paid by their sub, which was a sub of the overall contract holding sub. And that's a lot of subs in the deal. That's 3 tiers of subcontractors for a GC. The flooring subcontractor, the main holder of the contract with the general contractor. Then you have your master agreement with your sub, and then they have a sub. One. And what there's no way to prevent it, but I thought what we should do is talk about best practices and how to keep things moving forward, and maybe give some of the audience some tools and some advice on how it's been dealt with, both at my company and at Preferred Flooring. We use the master subcontract agreement soon to make things a lot easier for us. When a new sub comes on, they'll be able to fill out our agreement right through Go Carrera. So that is coming in an important part where our company members will be able to have their required subcontract documents and anything they want their sub to fill out as part of their Go Carrera sign up.
Which is awesome, because you guys also do the lien waivers through Go Carrera too.
Yep. So having a good master subcontract agreement is kind of your first line of defense, of making sure that you're talking to your trade partners and making sure that they have, if you know that they're subbing that work down to another trade partner, then ask them, talk to them, ask them that they get that you know, request the insurance from that third tier trade partner and not just take it for granted, or make sure that your trade partner has an umbrella policy that covers anybody working on that project with you. That type of language is in our master subcontract agreement. And that's kind of your first line of defense. So what do you guys do, and what can you teach me on, you know, protecting? And I just want to be clear, there's two big risks. You have the risk of the third tier trade partner, say, running a forklift through a $200,000 you know, storefront and causing immense amount of damage, and you need to be making sure that you're protected from that. And then you have the pay that you need to be make sure that you're protected from that standpoint, that they are paid. You know, we are trying to formulate some best practices within Go Carrera that will help that with our members, which is, you know, having the third tier even sign that they have been paid, lien release kind of thing. So, you know, but that takes a lot of that'll be in the future. Immediately, we have to know ways that we can protect our companies and our employees and our people from losing money because a third tier trade partner did not have the appropriate insurance or did not have their ducks in a row. So
I think we've been pretty fortunate to
Pretty
where,
lucky.
yeah, where any of our partners that we're hiring, it's just them and no one underneath them, because the projects that we're handling are just, you know, pretty simple, right? The guys in house are handling the more complicated stuff, which sounds backwards when you think about it, right? But we like to keep them busy.
No, we do the same thing.
also-
I would say our in-house guys, we try to keep them busy first, and so they're gonna, you know, we're gonna keep them busy first and then sub everything else out. But
we do have a master sub trade partner contract, which, you know, we have in there that they need to carry the insurances, and, you know, we're not going to be held liable for something that they do, and they're responsible for pretty much all the punch lists and all that stuff. And then I also have in there a document that I have them sign that says if they don't have workers comp, then they're signing it, right? And they need to get the exclusion, or they are working by themselves.
What dynamic, well, why do you guys think that this dynamic is present in our industry?
Oh
No
man, no
I'll let you
licensing
go ahead.
required. Yeah, say no licensing required. There's no structure per se on how it should be tiered. There's a template, but there's so many loopholes in that template that there's no set structure that can be followed, because it's a trickle effect. You can have a trade contractor and have a trickle down of other contractors underneath them, as long as they're meeting the minimum requirement, right? And the minimum requirement is across the board. Like our insurance and our liability might be higher than a lot of the individuals that we were to hire. But that's because we're taking on a little bit more, like we're taking on larger contracts. We're assuming more liability, not only with the labor aspect, but with the material, you know, and everybody asked to be listed as co-insured. The labor portion, the trade contractors don't have to worry about it. But I just feel like, besides the minimal structure that is set forth by federal and state laws, I think that's pretty much it. And every state is inconsistent, right? From state to state is different.
Would you say the ideal structure, like for me anyway, the ideal structure is if I hire a trade partner to do a job, that then the installers under them that are working for them are employees. That's ideal.
That is ideal. And like you said, why is this like this, right? And I think it all goes back to like when I say that I got into the industry. I started getting paid on the 1099 and I had no idea what was going on until I went to file my taxes and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you owe us this much money. It's the same thing when a business owner starts to do things and bring people on. I'm paid like this. I'm gonna pay you like this. Like they don't do the research to know that that's wrong. And then a lot of the times I think what happens is they start doing it, and then by the time they realize that it's wrong, they're like, well, I don't want to change because human nature, humans don't like change.
Well,
and then number two, it's going to cost me more money.
Yes, afraid of what could happen, the consequences, right? Like, for one, admitting that you
admitting
did
you're
not
wrong.
know something, and yeah, you did not know something, and that you might have failed and kind of slid between the cracks, so to speak. That's always hard, but it's just getting those next steps, and that's where the separation too comes from. Owning a job versus a business is, it's sad to say that some of these, let's just call them workrooms, because I think that's what they're referred to as workrooms. They're the ones that are pretty much footing the bill for all the insurance. And one of the, I don't know the exact inner workings, but based off of what I've been told, is there's a percentage taken off of the top, and this workroom is hired to have X amount of jobs, and they stay busy. They have a lot, but these other companies hire them because they know that they have the resources to get the jobs done. But instead of educating these other trade partners who are just starting or don't want to move up, they keep them stagnant. They don't educate them on some of the laws, some of the rules, some of the regulations. They keep them stagnant and say, just give me a percentage of what I'm telling you you're going to get paid, and I'll take care of the rest, not knowing that them taking care of the rest really isn't doing them any favors at all. Like, they're still going to be held responsible.
Yeah, and when you start talking about the big workrooms or workshop companies out there, so I've had experience with some that all of them are employees, and that's awesome. The ones who do resub the work out to another trade partner, the you don't always know. That is what's so scary about it. Like you don't know if they treat them like an employee,
Right.
that they're not a true W-2 without auditing that company's financial situation, your trade partners finances, so to speak, to learn that. I mean, really, you just got to ask questions, I think, and be aware of how that trade partner is set up, how is their business set up, and get to know it. A thought just came to mind. I wonder if, like, asking that question have them almost a yes or no question in the master agreement. Do you sub your work out, or is your work performed by employees?
I mean, if you
at
look
least
at it,
you would
like
know
with
them.
us, like when we're working for GCs, right? They have a pre-qualification. That is one of the questions. What percentage of your work is done in-house, and what percentage of your work is subbed out? These are the things they want to know. Not only that, it's when we're trying to work with someone, they want to know everything. They want our balance sheet.
Yeah.
They want our profit and loss. They want to know everything about your company,
every single thing,
for you to work for them. And I think that's what a lot of people that aren't in the position that we're in realize, is that once you do get here, you're pretty much, you got to be an open book anyways in order to get some of the work. And then when we go and ask them, a simple question, it's like, why are you even asking me this? It's like, I mean,
because we got to know.
Normalized to where transparency is key, right? Where it's like, I mean, I'm giving out all of my information. All I'm asking you is if you're using someone else. Like, it's a simple.
It goes like this: is the reason that we asked the question is because we're doing the same thing you were doing by not wanting to answer the question. We're trying to protect our business. So we're asking because we're trying to protect ourselves, right? We're trying to make things are in line with what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build, and with what's expected from us. That is the same reason that individuals don't want to answer those questions, because they're trying to protect what they have going on already. And if they were to make the connection with the right people and get educated under the right circumstances, they would understand the business aspect and realize that some of these workrooms who are doing it, I don't want the wrong way. Let's just say who are not ethical on it, right? From a government standpoint, who are doing it that way. If they were just to use their efforts and their smarts to do everything the right way, they could probably have a very large, successful employee-based business instead of a contractor or a trade partner business.
That's really what the industry needs, is subs to hire employee installers and train them up and charge the amount that they need to charge to have them as an employee and not as a sub or trade partner, like that would be, like I said earlier on, that would be ideal. But we are in reality, and in reality, subs, our trade partners or our subcontractors do hire other trade partners or subcontractors to do the work. Now, why that relationship is there is anyone's guess, but there's like what you said, Daniel, if there's two or three guys that are all getting work and they team up on jobs, and then sometimes they'll do them on their own, but sometimes they're teamed up.
Yep.
Well, those are all individual owners that can exclude themselves from work comp. I would encourage you not to do that, honestly, if you don't have health insurance on the outside. Like, work comp is not that expensive for yourself. And if you hurt yourself, where are you going to go if you don't have normal insurance?
Right. And I believe as proprietor, we have to exclude ourselves.
You don't have to.
Not in Kansas, you don't. I don't know about Michigan.
Either. It's actually an additional form that we have to fill out. So
yeah. So I started thinking too, and you were right about the sub or trade contractor. Like, they're going to keep hiring, right? And I mean, potential solutions for them, like if they don't want to get in trouble, and that's what it is. I think they just don't want to assume responsibility of that individual, those wages. But if they wanted to avoid trouble, the real way to do it is to add them as a partner onto all the forms, which could get really messy.
Oh, I don't think that it's only people, they don't want to do it. Yeah, they don't. It's not that some people don't want to do it. It's that they don't know how to do it, right?
Yeah, or they just don't know. Like you said, when you first got going, you didn't realize that you were going to get this big tax bill. I would just say this one statement. If you're a young, new installer that's just getting trained, or you want to get into this industry, be an employee. Find a way to work for either a company or a workshop that will hire you as an employee. Do that for the first 3 to 5 years, and then if you want to go out and sub, you'll be more prepared for it. At the very least, just know that you're going to be responsible for the taxes. And I've watched it too many times. Our trade partners get into trouble because they get behind on taxes and such. So just realize you're going to have to pay all that. The company's not paying for it. They don't have the responsibility to do so. It's your job, and it's your responsibility to cover the taxes on that. So if you're being paid as a 1099 through a workshop or by a company, just realize you are liable for all that. So I encourage every new guy to work for somebody as an employee for as long as you can, and hopefully you find a good home and you can stay on there for long term. We have several installers at our team at SNA that are an accountant, blah blah blah, all those things I guess I need to say, but it is preferred, and it is looked upon better if you do that. You'll get by better, and you're paying taxes. That's what they want. people, the government wants you to pay your taxes, not avoid them. If you have legitimate deductions and you have legitimate ways to offset your taxable income, wonderful. That is all legal, nothing wrong with it. However, paying taxes on your income, and separating those two is it's just a good practice to do if you can. That's my opinion.
And then some of the guys out there who do have a lot of other trade partners that work with them or under them, and don't feel like you have to have a brick and mortar to classify people as employees. You can do that out. You can use your kitchen as an office and still classify people. You don't need a physical brick and mortar, so to speak, or warehouse or a business. You can still do that. It doesn't have to be a physical location. The paper doesn't discriminate. The physical location looks the same on paper to everybody.
When we classified employees, we were working out of a storage unit.
Let's go, Bang. You should sponsor our podcast. I drink one of these on every week. Yeah, I mean, the last part that maybe we can hit on is who's properly training or making sure that the third tier trade partner is receiving the training. A good subcontractor, a good labor provider, trade partner will make sure that their subs or their trade partners are at least have access to training and understand them or help them get to them. Something has to be done. If you're not going to treat them as an employee and send them to the training, at least have a good system in place where you have trainings at your place, or maybe the flooring company that you work with has trainings that you can make sure that all your guys are a part of. They're not your employees, so you can't force them, but giving the opportunity and making sure that they know that the opportunities are there. That's
huge. Because Jose and Crystal are in Georgia this week for an AFCT. They got a resilient class that they're launching with Andy and Kevin from Novalis. They already did the substrate and subfloor, so they missed out on today. It actually started today, but it looks like they had a pretty good turnout. And then actually,
we missed Sam, dude. That's the only reason I wanted to be early, because Sam was there.
John Curtis is in North Carolina right now at the SIM program. Yeah. So it's all about, like you say, reinvesting in the business, right? You invest in the people to go out and learn something so that they can invest back into the business as well.
And then as far as the subcontractors, I'm sorry. As far as the subcontractors, you're right, Paul. Like, we can give advice and help one-on-one at the shop, or say, hey, this training is available. Hey, let me connect you with some of the trainings out there. But it's really up to them, because, like, they're not an employee. It's kind of hard to just wait for them to do something, knowing that they don't have to come and do or use any of that knowledge that they gained for any of the work for you. They can choose not to work for you anymore after that class. It's just a little bit harder to do that. And kudos to the people who can do that and who do keep themselves busy enough to know that they're not going anywhere anytime soon. But then again, they probably should be classified as employees because they know they're not going anywhere.
Well, we all want to have loyal people, but you got to think of it like your GC thinks of it. I don't have one GC as good of relationships as we have that gives us every single project. And they do that on purpose. They don't want me or our company to be misclassified as an employee because every job they do is done by us. And so subs out there, I know there's a big desire by other flooring companies out there to hoard their subcontractors or their trade partners and not, want them to go to do any work for any competitor at any time. Well, you're breaking the law. I don't know how to say it gently. You're breaking the law. That guy is you, and it may not have come home to roost yet, but one of the things we try to make sure of, if we see one of our trade partners doing too much work with us and not with anyone else, we'll literally not work them for a little bit and until they have to go do some work elsewhere. Most of them just naturally through our slow time or something through the ebbs and flow of business will go grab a job or two from another flooring contractor. And we invite that. We feel like that is one of the cleanest ways to prove that they are not your employee. If they come to work for you on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then for the next week and a half they're working for someone down the street, well, it's a clear identifier that they're not your employee. That's not an employee arrangement, and that they're free to go out and earn business and find business elsewhere. So I would encourage people that think that you want to hoard your subs to reconsider and understand that is a big thing. That is a big thing the IRS is going after, trying to grab that money that they feel like they're missing.
Correct.
Just be careful.
They want their percentage. And then for those companies out there who are listening, or trade partners, subcontractors, if you will, if you haven't yet, you're not prepping up to the trade partner lingo yet. If there was only a program out there or something available that can help them with that, right? Help them share in the contractors that do the installations for them, so that way they're not put in a bad position, right? Give them another avenue to find additional work. You're going to keep them busy, but hey, sometimes you got to let them go for a minute to save yourself. And if somebody else has work, if there was only a program out there that could probably help facilitate that, I don't know. Maybe you guys know something about that.
Danny says that you can't fire him, but you can give him incentives, right? And that kind of goes to, we've touched on this with employees too, right? It's like, show me that you're worth more. And it's the same thing with the subs, is because we've been in that position. We know people that have been in that position where like, this is, you're not paying me enough. Well, show me that you're worth more.
Yeah, and a way a sub could do that, or a trade partner could do that, is by showing that all your installers are in fact employee installers. That goes a long way. I mean, I understand this might be like, yeah, well, the flooring companies don't want to hire the employees, so why are we being why is the burden being put on us as a trade partner to hire them as employees? Well, I think flooring companies should hire as employees. If I'm honest, I would hire mostly employees most of the time. Unfortunately, our market just doesn't have enough people that desire to work that way. And so we have to work with subcontractors, and we're fine doing it. We have great relationships with our subs, but I would still just say that, someone through this process, it can't just be chaos. And like when you go to war, or when countries, go to battle back in the day, you have individual platoons that all make eventually a company, that make a brigade, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're all in unison. They're all working together. Just because they're an individual platoons doesn't mean they're not working together and staying informed. That's kind of a bad analogy, but the point here is if you're a trade partner, a first tier kind of guy that has a bunch of subs underneath you that are working for you, they at least have to understand and kind of operate under the same thing that you are doing. Does that make sense? I know that might be confused. What I'm trying to say is that I hired this trade partner for his skills and ability. I don't want to get this trade partner that's working under him that doesn't have that same skill and ability, or at least the same approach to a project.
So it all goes back to a conversation that I had with a wise man when we were on the road to a restaurant, where he said that you can't take the 1099 away because it kills the entrepreneur spirit. And that's what this country was built on, was entrepreneur spirit, right? So you can't completely take that away. However, if people understood that they were better classified somewhere else and they could experience more consistent success as an employee because of their shortcomings as a business owner or because of their lack of attention to getting better at their craft, and they can be exposed to a wider range of education. And maybe some of that education would be how to be a better business owner. But we're never going to get rid of the 1099. It's always going to be there. But it utilized the right way, in the right manner, by the right people, you could have a lot more success. The success rate could be a lot greater.
I think if you look at the design of our industry, it's just a little off, because even the organizations that are trying to pull the newcomers in, they keep on pushing them into being, you can be your own boss, you can do this, you can do that. And it's like, why don't we start telling them something else right off the get-go, right? It's like,
I think the problem though, Daniel, is there's not enough companies hiring employees, so they can't place them with companies, and they end up getting into this whole mix. And I get it, but at the end of the day, that if you are new to this industry, if you can possibly get a job as an employee for a little while, and I love our trade partners, our subs, and 1099 crews. Like I'm not against that whatsoever. The piece that I'm trying to address is just to help them not get into tax problems and to properly train so that they're able to produce a consistent product and obviously stay out of trouble. But yeah, as long as we're bringing people in and telling them they could be their own boss out of the gate, I think that's the dangerous part. Because what business acumen have you achieved by that point? I don't know. There's some companies out there like Footprint Floors that does a good job of training the people to be business owners, and then those franchisees for Footprint Floors then they get all this really high quality training from a business perspective. They go through some technical training to learn the trade if they don't already know it, but then they hire subs to actually perform the work. But they, as a sub, so to speak, or as a trade partner, they have the business knowledge to fall back on, and that's the piece that we don't train well in our industry.
Right, and that's kind of like, I mean, we have a board in the office, but back in the day, I came up with like, hey, what if we were just to bring people on and have them sign like a contract? Like, let's teach them all aspects and try to have them, at X amount, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they can either choose to stay an employee or they can choose to go ahead and go on their own, and we'll help support that. And kind of like give them a little nudge on their way, or I don't want to say push them off the cliff and let them learn how to fly, because if they're not flying, they're falling, right? So
yeah.
So said that and a while ago, and it's just, you're right. It's just one of those things. Like, yeah, you could be a business owner, but you can't put someone in college for all these years and tell them they're going to make X amount of dollars a year, and they're still going to fail if they don't know how to handle the finances that they're going to be bringing in. Right?
Rollins says that the IRS knows that subs are using people that they can't track. So the only thing they can do is come after the dealer. And kind of wish he was on here so he could kind of elaborate on that. But I have read into the past before, like when we were making the transition, about how it's almost a trickle up thing, right? They'll come to us and then we can't prove anything. So then they come to the dealer, and it'll go all the way up into, the construction company that you're working for. And it's like, who's going to end up paying this? It's people need to keep track of this stuff. And we've had meetings with some of the construction companies, and they were pretty honest about everything. And they were like, who is doing this? We need to know.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we could go a whole nother hour here on this topic, but we are nearing the end. I think some big takeaways is make sure if you're a company hiring trade partners, that you have a good master subcontract agreement. On the installer or trade partner labor provider side, try to make sure that you that you care about A, training, and B, get knowledgeable on how you're paid, understand how you're paid, and what that means to you financially, and what your liabilities are there from a tax and insurance perspective. It's not the funnest topic to talk about, but it's deep, and we'll probably do another one on this, because I don't know that we scratched the surface, but I don't know that we came up with a ton of solutions.
I think that you have to, there's steps to it, right? And a lot of the guys don't even keep track of their income or their expenses. So maybe we can talk to, have one about that. Even it's like, start with something and then work up to the next thing, because that's kind of like the same thing that we did.
Hey, maybe we should have a conversation. Maybe we should have some people on the podcast, like an insurance agency or somebody's CPA, just so that way they can explain it.
I think next time that we shoot this, we should have some experts on from insurance and an accountant, and kind of talk through that with people who are certified and trained to talk about it. I just have a lot of experience, and I know you guys do as well. So, all right, guys. Well, we're nearing the. Go ahead.
Robin says that he's working with dealers fighting the Workplace Fraud Act in Maryland. So that is, showing proof.
I'd like to know more about that.
For people that are misclassifying, right? And it's a trickle up effect. So if you're not doing something right, it's going to get to the dealers, and dealers don't want to deal with that stuff either. So it's on them to also realize that they have to at least pass on the information that they know.
Yeah.
Don't worry, when they get caught with their pants down, they're going to figure out a way to put it all back on you plus some, because they're not just worried about you.
It's certainly important. I'd love to pick Roland's mind on what that all entails, but yeah, we do.
Yeah, I know.
We got to schedule you, Roland.
Yeah, come on, Roland. All right, guys. Well, hey, to the audience, if you like the content, if you've enjoyed the podcast and you understand what we're trying to do here, you find value, please consider subscribing, liking, whatever platform you're watching on, give us a comment or a like. And we appreciate the attendance. Thank you, as always, to my friends at Preferred Flooring up in Michigan for, helping this podcast be as informative as it is. I really appreciate you guys. And from there, we will see you next week. Same time, Central, 3:00 Central Time, every single Tuesday.
Awesome.
Anything signing out, fellas?
Sorry, I was walking around making everybody dizzy in the airport, man, trying to find quiet places.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the input. And to our audience, again, consider giving us a like and subscribe. And we will see you guys next week.
All right. See ya.
Take it easy.
All right. Thanks, guys.